Well, thank you for letting me come and visit your class. I'm really excited to be here. I have looked forward to this since Ann told me last week, Thursday. And so, if you're ready for a little bit of, I'm loud and I'm Polynesian, so you're just gonna have to deal with that, okay? And I will hope, I've just given her the assignment to cut me off at 12:40. Or actually, why don't you cut me off at about 12:35? So if there are any questions, I can address those as well. But just by way of introduction, Ann asked me on Thursday, we were sitting in a session and admiring each other's lashes, you know, and she said, you know, I teach a women in business class and I'm going to be gone next week. Would you be interested in visiting? And I said, you don't even have to ask me. Women in business, strong, powerful, all that in a bucket of chicken, of course I'm on board. And so I'm really happy to be here. And so she asked me to come in and just talk a little bit about maybe my story, maybe some of the things that I've been through, my career, where I'm at now, how come I'm here. And I apologize for that. That's on my UVU professional page, and I haven't had time to edit it, but I will. But the only thing you really need to remember, 4 major things. I'm the only person on UVU that can do this. That was a joke. Okay? The only thing I think that you ought to remember is that I work as the assistant director in the Career Development Center, and my biggest passion is seeing you succeed, seeing you get a job, seeing you be fulfilled, seeing you happy, whether it's work or whether it's in a career. I really get a lot of pleasure out of that. The second thing is that I am first and foremost a mother of 4 children. Well, that's 4 births, but 5 children. I kind of disowned one this week, okay? But, no, I'm kidding. She was giving me grief. But I actually am the mother of 5 children, and I'll tell you a little bit more in my presentation. I'm really proud of that. It's not been easy at all to work and to have a career as well as raise children. And then the third thing that I'm also great and passionate about is really making sure that women know where they are and how they can be, how they can have impact or how they can be influential. That's important to me. I grew up as a submissive Polynesian woman, and I always knew where my place was. I always knew what to do, what to say, when to say it. And coming to America and having to shape that a little bit was kind of an interesting process. It hasn't been easy, but it's been something that I've been really excited about and wanting other women to do as well. I haven't had an easy life, and you'll learn more about that in the presentation today. And then the fourth thing that I really am good at is that I really love and that I'm really passionate. They are equal now. They used to be more. One used to be more important, but it's food and Facebook. My favorite F words. They really are. Okay. I nobody in my profile on LinkedIn. I put there that I'm a food gawker, and someone who is obsessed with food and loves food and dreams of food, because for me as a Polynesian woman, food is love, you know, and so we give and feed how we love. And so that's important for you to know. And then Facebook, of course, you know, ever since I started on Facebook, it's been my journal. I put everything but the kitchen sink on there, much to the dismay of my husband and children. But it's been a way for me to vent, for me to help others, for me to tell people about my story as well. So I'm just going to go straight into, I want to just kind of introduce you to me. I work, as I told you, in the Career Center, and these are my people, okay? And I spend more time with them than I do with my own family. So it's really important that I actually like them, okay? And it's really important that I get along with them. And we kind of have a nice little balance of personalities and goals and visions and families. And I am the token mother hen in our office staff. And I love that. I own that role. And I really love being a support to our director, Michael. He's really supportive of women. He's supportive of our careers. He's supportive of the fact that we have families. And I think that's really important wherever you go, to have somebody that understands that. And so I love that about working in the Career Development Center. But more than that, I really love working at UVU, where I've been able to tap into a few things that I think can make a difference to the people that I teach or talk to. I also teach in the School of Business, and that's been interesting for me. Most of my career, I've taught English, and I've worked in HR. I've done everything from a $2 job, $2 an hour job, to a $200,000 a year job, and so I've kind of done the whole gamut, and I've been proud of what it's taught me in each phase and each job and each career change. It's been many, and so when people walk into my office and they say, "You don't really know how I feel," oh yes, I do. I've been there, I've done that, and you'll see why when I get through this presentation. But yes, it's important that you like where you work, and I'm lucky enough to be in a job that I like the people that I work with. I get to do what I love, and do it on a daily basis. Okay. All right. So I have two pictures up here, and I threw it in here as part of the presentation because these two people made a big difference in my life. The young lady up at the top was a student of mine at BYU Hawaii. Not very smart. Been told all her life that she was average, and she walked into my classroom just this ray of sunshine, really excited to learn, really excited to be there, just to be in a classroom. And you know, that makes all the difference for a teacher. The fact that someone's there, excited, passionate, wanting to learn. Not the smartest, but definitely the most eager and enthusiastic. Well, I took her through her English career at BYU Hawaii, and I think one of the most poignant things about our relationship as teacher and student is I had no idea that she was struggling with cancer. And she graduated from BYU Hawaii and left, and about 2 or 3 years after she gave birth to her first child, she passed away at the hospital. And the reason why I always use Megan as part of my story is I realize that there are many of us that aren't the cream of the crop, and that aren't the best of the best, and they don't have all access to everything. And this was Megan's case, and yet throughout every single opportunity she was given, she didn't back down, and she always gave her best. That's what I loved about her. She didn't make excuses. She didn't say I was sick. She didn't say I just don't have it. I'm just not that smart. She just went for it and did her best every single day. Every day, not some days, every day. And so she inspires me, and I always use her as a way to remember that you've got to bring it every day. It's not easy, but you really have to do that. And then the young man down there with the yellow arrow is my late husband. We met at BYU Hawaii. We were dancers at the Polynesian Culture Center, so it was kind of like, I would say, romantic, because we saw each other across the stage. We decided, we went to school together, we were both from Tonga, and decided that we wanted to come to Utah to go and continue on our education. So we both graduated. We moved to Utah in 1995, and in April. And then 3 months later, he was playing a rugby game and got hit, and his nose just kept on bleeding. They took him to the LDS hospital, and the doctor pulled me aside and said, he's got 3 months to live. He has terminal liver cancer. I had 3 little girls under the age of 2 at the time, and I felt like I was hit by a bus and a semi and a hurricane all at one time. I could not believe that somebody would mess with my dream. You know, I graduated from BYU Hawaii. I deserved the dream, the husband, the kids, the house, the life. And so we moved to Utah. When he told me, I think I was in shock for about 24 hours. Just 24 hours. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to respond. I have 3 little girls under the age of 2. I'm in a strange land called Utah. You know, I grew up in the island, so coming to Utah was like going to Disneyland. You know, I really had no idea what to do. However, he went right into chemo. They took him into the hospital and said, we're gonna try. He did 1 round and said, I'm done.
I can't do it anymore. And I think I can't do the treatments anymore, but I think we still deserve to live life to the fullest. And I really appreciated that because things were pretty dire, you know, and pretty ugly at the time. And he said, we're not going to give up. We're going to fight to the end. And we did. So he passed away. He passed away on a Sunday afternoon. And it was, to say, devastating. It was, because I had no idea that this could happen. I grew up thinking I deserve the dream. I got the dream. I got the good looking guy. I got the great kids. I have a degree. I am set for life. And then something like this comes along and just shatters all of that thinking and dreaming and hoping. So, but he was very inspirational to me, because right up until the day he died, he said, you deserve to go after everything you want. You deserve it. And so, and he said, just because I'm gone doesn't mean you can't still do it. And so after just one quick story about that. While he was in hospital, we had just moved from Hawaii. No insurance, no job, 3 little kids, and a $900,000 hospital bill. And the night before they were going to discharge him to put him on hospice, the lady from the financial services came up and said, we got to figure out a way to pay this bill. And I said, we just don't have a way. We really don't. We are penniless. We are poor college graduates. We have nothing to our name. We don't even have family here in Utah. So that night we just held each other and cried all night, you know, praying to a higher power to figure out something, because we did not know how to respond to her the next morning. The next morning, she walked up to our room and said, the bill's been taken care of. That was a turning point in my life, because I realized that there are good people out there. The only stipulation to that was that that they remained anonymous. To this day, I've done some stalking and some cyber, you know, trying to find out. I have people, you know, and I tried to find out. It was Fort Knox. Have not been able to find out to this day who took care of that $994,000 bill. I don't know to this day. And to me, that just tells me, number one, there are good people out in the world. Number two, I think that what you put out in the universe in terms of good and work and service and care and friendship, it really comes back more than you expect. And so that is a reminder to me about that every single day. Okay, just so you know, this is not going to be a lecture. I do want to tell you that I am human, and I told you I love food, but I love sushi, okay? And I have tried to, you know, people say, how is that even relevant? Many, many contracts, many business meetings, many job opportunities have come to pass because we've shared food and we've broken bread over, you know, we've actually negotiated over food. And so I think that if you aren't a food gawker like me, that ought to be something that you can work and something that you can actually use to your advantage. I've had a number of meetings that have happened, and it's not been good, and it has been quite ugly. I've had to do some firings over food. I've had to do some hirings over food. I've had to talk about we need to cut the budget by $1 million over food to I don't know where we're going and if we're going to keep our doors open over food. But it's always made it much better. And so I'm proud to say that I'm a food gawker. There's no shame in that, okay? But yes, food's quite important to me. And just so you know, I'm sure many women will agree, chocolate. If food is love, then chocolate is heaven, right? I love chocolate, and I especially love good chocolate. I know that they have Rocky Mountain chocolate here, and then they also have Godiva. Many people don't share my passion for chocolate, but again, it's opened many doors for me. In my career, in my life, I know that the more that you give, the more you get back. And so oftentimes what I've done is give chocolate as a way to say thank you, or as a way to say you mean something to me, or as a way to say I really appreciate you being in my life. And so let me tell you a quick story about how chocolate can be beneficial. Besides the romance that comes attached to chocolate, of course that's a given, but in my career, when I started here 3.5 years ago at the Career Development Center, I had a student walk into my office, and he had just graduated from business, 3.9 GPA, brilliant student, great, and he had just got a job at the Walmart across the street, as a manager. And he was quite excited about it, to be able to get a job after you graduate. He walked into my office and said, so what do you do? And I said, well, you tell me what you need and I'll be able to make all your dreams come true. And he said, well, I kind of want to know, is there a possibility that I might be able to get something better? I said, well, where are you now? I said, Walmart. What's your salary? $35,000. What's your dream of dreams, and what's in your heart of hearts? I really did ask him that. People say, that's so, and I said, well, that's what I wanted to know, because that helps me help him. And he said, I really want to be in a job where my wife can stay home and take care of the kids. I need to be the breadwinner. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about what we bring to the table, your knowledge, your skills, your abilities. We kind of went over the whole gamut. And then I said, I think you'd be a great fit for a job opportunity with a friend of mine in San Diego. He has a finance company. The job opportunity offers $85,000. Would you be interested in that? What do you think his answer was? Yes, sign me up. You've got to earn it, okay? So we decided we'd go through a round of interviews. We actually had 6 rounds of interviews. The phone interview, and of course, prompting him, teaching him, coaching him, standing in the background with little prompt sheets. Don't say that, sit up, open your mouth, As a mother, you normally do that. But then the Skype interview, he walked in with a white shirt and a 4th of July tie and shorts. Fair enough, it was a Skype interview, you only see the top. But again, more prompting, more coaching, more confidence building. It's the same interview, only a different perspective and a different angle and a different audience. 3rd round interview with a group of managers. 4th round interview, they flew him out to San Diego and for a nice dinner. There's a point to the story, forgive me. But so they flew him out, and I said, have you ever been to a nice dinner? And he said, yes, Cafe Rio rocks. And I said, we need to do a little bit of coaching, because they're taking you to a place where sushi is $100 a piece, okay? First of all, he had never eaten sushi. Second of all, he'd never used chopsticks. And third of all, he didn't even know the protocol. And so I had a lot of fun teaching him that as well. To make a long story short, he met finally with the CEO, and he's working in San Diego. And in a corner office where it doesn't snow ever in San Diego, and really happy living the dream job, having the dream job, being happy, doing what he studied for. But the point to that is that every month since then, he sends me a box of C's chocolate every month as a thank you. Now, do you think that I would go above and beyond for somebody like that? Of course, because he came back to say thank you. I think that's really critical. A lot of times people take us for granted, but the more that you give out and the more that you express gratitude, the more that it comes back as well. And so I always do thank yous with chocolate. I'm a woman, shoes are important to me, okay? And I actually wore some to show today, okay? But I'm going to come around and show you. There's a point to this. People say, why do you wear those? They're ridiculous, they're too high. And I say, there's a reason I wear shoes like this. I'm a big Polynesian woman. And in order for me to find my place, I really need to wear these kinds of shoes, because they remind me to plant myself firmly and confidently. I like towering over people, because it also gives you an added boost of confidence. And I also like the fact that it reminds you that you don't have to be cookie cutter, and that you actually can go through businesses and go through life standing out. There's too many of us that sort of just go with the flow and just sort of do what everybody does. And I have a really big problem with that, because I think we are so unique as women. And then women who are pursuing business opportunities, and then women who are also career women, and then women who are also at the same time career woman, sole bread provider, smart, intelligent cook, chauffeur, mother, wife, sister, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And oftentimes we forget to plant ourselves somewhere enough that we're confident enough to tell people who we are and what we're all about. And so shoes like these remind me to do that. Plus they're fun and they make me look thinner, okay? I have a thing, as most of you might have known, if you follow my Facebook or if you're a student in my class, I have a thing for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, okay? Years ago, I created a bucket list. I was able to accomplish everything that was on that bucket list. I created another one, including meeting Oprah, and that was accomplished. And then this third bucket list, I've done everything except for meet Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. There have been some close opportunities here in Utah, but not yet. It doesn't count. And the reason I have a bucket list is because I think many people say you only need one bucket list, but I've done 1, 2, this is my third bucket list. There have been times where I have felt like, oh, my life's at the end of its rope. I need to be able to do some things. And they say, but why Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? I mean, why not Obama? Why not, this is my Obama, okay? And plus, he's easy on the eyes, I'm not gonna lie, okay? But he inspires me because he has his own rags to riches story. He's Polynesian, he grew up poor, and now he's Hercules, and I love that. I love that real people can actually get somewhere on their own credibility and on their own merit. And I think that's why that's important to me. And I swear, I told my students a couple of semesters ago, I put out a challenge and I said, do you want an easy A? All you have to do is get The Rock to come to UVU to stand in front of me. That's all you have to do. And I had some marketing geniuses who got the agent, but that doesn't count, okay? I want the actual Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in flesh at UVU. And if you do that, you'll get an A, because that takes a lot of finesse, that takes a lot of savvy, it takes a lot of hours. I said, if you do that, I will give you an A. We got close, but not quite. And so that's still on my bucket list, not just as a fun thing, but as a reminder to always be looking for something that's unattainable. People say, you will never meet him. And what happens when you tell a woman that you can't do it? Yeah. Oh, no, you didn't tell me that I can't do that, okay? So that's a little bit of a reminder. This is my family and pretty much the main motivating factor for everything that I do. In my life, in my career, I have a 21-year-old daughter that goes to UVU, and then 19-year-old daughters who are in Korea on an LDS mission, and then a 16-year-old drama queen, and then also a 14-year-old boy that can do no wrong. He's spoiled, he's a mama's boy. But the point is, it hasn't been easy. And I know all of you have something that moves you and something that inspires you and something that makes you get up every day. And this is what does it for me. I have had some experiences that I'm going to share throughout this presentation that'll blow your mind and you wonder how, what, how. This is why, okay? You have to have something that moves you beyond a paycheck, beyond compliments, beyond a degree. Something else has got to keep you going, okay? So this is me on the first. I've had breast cancer, and this was the day they told me, you're in the clear. Woohoo! I was so excited. I took pictures. I let the whole world know through Facebook that I was in the clear. And then it was also the same day. Let me go back really quickly. It was the day they told me, you are in the clear from breast cancer, but guess what? We found something odd. Don't you love it when they kind of tell you things like that? There's just something that's not right. So we're going to do some more tests. And I was like, okay, I'm fine. It was a big success. And I threw in one of my favorite quotes from Abraham Lincoln, which says, if we magnified our successes as much as we magnify our disappointments, we'd all be much happier. Now, do I focus on the odd thing that they've just found, or do I focus on the fact that I just beat, like a boss, breast cancer? I was so excited. I had a party. It was exactly what I thought it would be, and I decided to focus on that because a week later, they said, we have some bad news. You have leukemia. and we need to take out a couple of tumors. We're going to have to go through a series of chemo and radiation treatments, including surgery, a couple of surgeries. And I said, what? I have just beat cancer and you're going to tell me I've got to deal with this? Now, I want you to know how hard it is for this woman to show her real self, okay? I think the most traumatic part of the whole experience was when my hair started falling out. I don't know about you, but it was dramatic, and it was traumatic, and it was devastating. And my husband said, we'll even shave our heads too. That's not fair because guys look good bald, okay? But it was really hard, and that was a good day, one of the good days. Very few good days, but a good day, and I wanted to capture it. And so a lot of people didn't know I was going through this. I was still teaching here at UVU, still working in the Career Center, and I just slapped on my eyebrows and some accessories and decided I was going to go to work and work through all my treatments. It was not easy. There were times when I just wanted to close my door and shut down and cry because I was in so much pain and I was not feeling well. But I had an obligation to move on because of the family, then the slide that you saw before, and because students were looking out for me, and students were counting on me to show up. And so I worked through all of that, and it was not easy. But the thing that I learned through that whole experience is that the minute you stop thinking that you have no power is when you don't have any power. And I realized I was going to talk myself through the whole time. I'm going to do this, even if I have to go minute by minute, I'm going to get through this. Oftentimes I would be so drained and so tired that I'd have to go straight to the ER from work. And though I don't say that so that you can feel sorry for me, what I'm trying to say is that it was a choice that I had to make minute by minute by minute, and it was something that moved me. Being able to come to work was actually, forced me to get up and put your Spanx on and some makeup, and it actually made you do something instead of, it would have been so easy to just lie down and just say, okay, world, go away. But it was a choice, and I did not want people to think of me as weak, okay? And so throughout the whole experience, I have not been given the all clear yet, and I'm still taking medication and still going through some treatments, but throughout this hopefully within a month, I'll be able to get the all clear. But there have been some really critical lessons that I've learned throughout my career and throughout this whole life experience. The number one thing I think is you got to go big or go home. So many of us just are satisfied and okay with doing bare minimum. And I found that the minute you tell yourself that you're going to go big, and I'll give you a good example. When we do a party, we don't just do vegetables and dip, okay? I'll just give you the quickest example I know. We do like the pig, the refreshments, the dessert, the rice, the crops, the sides. We have to do it big. And that actually can be a good lesson to learn no matter what you do, in relationships, in career negotiations, in school even. There are too many of us, I think, that are just willing to just meet expectations or just do the bare minimum. But there are very few of us that go big. And the ones that go big and live large and go after those things that are like the dream are the ones that are the most happiest, because then they have very few regrets because they've done it. I don't care, I'm just going to go for it. And I surround myself with many people like that, who are not afraid to go big and who are not afraid to do things above and beyond, and who are not afraid to succeed, and who don't apologize for failing either. I have, throughout my whole life, failed many times. Besides the health issues, okay, I've also lost 2 children, and then I've lost a business, And I've even been fired from a job. Well, not fired, but laid off from a job. And so I've kind of, had every kind of experience that would break somebody. And it's very easy to just say, okay, I had bad luck, or you can actually use that experience to just change the way that you think, the way that you treat other people, the way that you approach even studying. It changes you. And so I've just realized that one thing that I know that works for me is if I do have an attitude, if I only have today, I'm going to knock it out of the ballpark today, because I may not have tomorrow. A lot of us do that. I did that when my husband was when he was dying. I just kept thinking, there's tomorrow. Don't worry, we got tomorrow. We have tomorrow. We have tomorrow. And we didn't have tomorrow. And so I figured that would be a way for me, especially as I've gone through different treatments. I don't care about tomorrow. I really just want to focus on today and make sure that whatever I do today means something. Okay? So that was one lesson I learned. Another lesson I've learned is also that we should pay attention. Oftentimes, pay attention to the little things, the little details, the little things that matter. I know as women, we do that anyway. It's in our blood, in our nature, to be able to pay attention to the details. But I think oftentimes when we're done with our college education, oftentimes we kind of get sucked into big vision or big dreams, and we forget the little things that matter. I know that many doors have been opened, many opportunities have come my way because I paid attention to the small details. Let me tell you a fun story. So a couple of months ago, I was asked there was an opportunity that came up at the University of Utah to work in an executive position there. And they had invited me to apply. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so important. I'm going to apply. I'm going to put everything in this process. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go big or go home, and they're just going to love me. And so the whole process, I went through the whole process, the interviewing, et cetera, et cetera. And I was sitting in that office before the final interview. And what was interesting to me is I had about 20 minutes to just observe how it was, what they were doing, who the people were, and just quiet time. And I realized I really would not be happy here. And most people would be so caught up in preparing for the final interview that they would forget to pay attention to the little things that would make a difference. And so that 20 minutes I sat there and I was like, this is not for me. This is not, the money would be great, but at this point in my career, really, it's not it's not something that keeps you there. It might get you in the door, but it's not something that keeps you there. So I made a split decision in that 20 minutes, and I said, I'm not going to do this. And I didn't know, I was trying to build up enough confidence to say, thank you, but I regretfully decline. I was through the whole 20 minutes, got to the final interview, and went through it because I was too chicken, and then finally said at the end, I appreciate the offer, and I appreciate, what you saw and the confidence you've given me, but this isn't for me. Is it the money? No, it's not the money. What is it? It's just that I've realized now I need to put myself in places where I can be happy, and this is not something that would make me happy. So I walked away, and of course, what do you do when you get to your car? I should not have said that. You second guess, you give yourself a lecture. I went home and I cried and told my husband, I can't believe I just turned it down. And he said, did you go with your gut? Yes. Did you pay attention and figure out why you didn't want to take it? Yes, then you're okay. And so it took about a day or two to get over that. But that's been kind of my experience throughout my career, to go with your gut and pay attention to the little things. A lot of times we get so caught up by the salary or the prestige or the job title that we forget what really matters and means something to us. And so that might be something that I've learned and that I'd love to share. Just pay attention to the gut. Pay attention to what you're hearing inside. Okay, so I did show you a pair of shoes, okay, to help you, remind you to stand out. I think it's pretty easy for me to stand out. Oftentimes I'll be the only woman in a boardroom of men, and the only Polynesian in a room full of, Caucasian people, and I'm not afraid to stand out. But it wasn't always like that. I grew up in a culture where you're very submissive and you're very disobedient and not vocal. And I've had to learn how to get away from that and to be able to stand out and hold my own. And one thing that I do that I kind of have a sense of humor. Oftentimes I'll stump my students and I'll say, okay, you're going to have a quiz and there are only 4 things that you need to remember. And they'll be a little shocked. They're not sure. Should I laugh? What am I supposed to do? It's hilarious. I love having that kind of control, okay? But I'm not afraid to stand out, but it's not been automatic. I've had to practice at it, and I've had to work at it, and I've had to find a place where I am confident to stand out. Now, there are a couple of things that make me stand out. I'm Polynesian, I'm loud, I'm happy, I'm in your face, And but I've had to learn how to regulate that and how to rein it in at times, and then how to show that off also at times. One thing that I can say though that is, I'll give you a quick example. One of my favorite things to do is, as women and as mothers, oftentimes we'll just kind of just do things without thinking, and I'm really quite impulsive, which has worked to my benefit many times. But oftentimes we'll be in an assembly or a meeting in the ballroom, and last year in Summer University, the speaker that was there was speaking for about 30 minutes, and he was choking, and it was bugging me because I was in the front row, and he was, kind of dry-throating the whole thing. And so I went in my heels, of course, to the back of the ballroom, grabbed some water and tripped down the aisle up to the podium and gave him some water. I wasn't thinking of it. It was just bothering me that he was choking. And I didn't think anything of it. But anyway, he didn't know me from Adam, but I was paying attention to that little detail. And I wanted to kind of stand out as the person that rescued the speaker. And so a couple of weeks later, I get a card in the mail that says, he had done a little bit of research and figured out who I was. This loud Polynesian heels lady gave me water, and he sent me a really nice thank you card and a weekend, all expense paid weekend at the Grand Marriott, the Grand America, as a thank you for paying attention and not being afraid to just do it. Okay, was I thinking of that? No, he was just choking. And I wanted to give him some water. And most people will say, it's not in your job description. And most people will say, well, really, it's not your place, and it's not for you to do. But if you go on impulse and you're not afraid to stand out, then just do it. Good things have always happened to me when I'm not afraid to just jump in and do it. I won't tell you the bad stories, okay? All right. I also know that throughout my life, I've learned that all work is valuable. I've told you I've worked in every capacity. $2 an hour, I still keep those checks. I was too embarrassed to pay offerings on a $2 paycheck because I didn't want to cash it because it was only $2. But I was putting myself through school, $2, and for a 40-hour work week, I framed that so my kids know, that mom works hard. But and anything, every single capacity, it doesn't matter where I've been, including working $200,000 a year. And in that kind of a position, you have the right to delegate and you have the right to tell other people to do your work. But what I've loved is that something that I've learned is that even the CEO takes the trash out. And if you can be that kind of a leader, can you imagine the following you'll have? I've had some really incredible relationships build from the fact that you are not defined by a job title. And that you can just come and, some of my best friends have been custodians, some of them VPs and CEOs. And I love surrounding myself with people who understand this principle that all work, no matter what you do, where you do it, and how you do it, is valuable. In this day and age, Oftentimes we kind of want to just go straight to the mid-level management position because there's prestige and there's a salary and everybody treats you different. But if you make your way up the ladder and through all work opportunities, you really get a different perspective of people. You really are a little bit more empathetic to people because you've done the whole gamut. And you can actually say, I actually know how you're feeling. I actually know what you've done. I actually appreciate you, and it means something. So something that I've really loved and enjoyed is knowing that any kind of work is valuable. A lot of people will say, well, the whole argument about, stay-at-home moms versus career moms, why can't you do both? Why aren't both valuable? And sometimes we'll talk about, he's just she's just the administrative assistant. And that really makes the hair on my neck stand up, because a lot of times they're the heart and soul of everything they do, everything the office does, and they don't get enough appreciation or value. But if I can recognize that all work is valuable and exemplify that in my own performance and in the way that I treat others, then that makes it a part of my core and makes me somebody that people like to be around. Because you value every single person, not just the VIPs and not just the people that get all the recognition. Every single person is valuable in a team. Okay? One thing that I've also learned throughout this whole experience too, an additional thing, is the principle of being grateful. I think many of the most successful people have tapped into this and have realized in order for you to get far and to get things done, you really ought to understand the principle of gratitude and to have an attitude of gratitude. I haven't made this isn't something that's new. It's something we know. It's something that's very common, especially as women. But let me just share two quick experiences. I teach in the School of Business, like I told you, and I just go through every semester doing the best that I can. And I had people knew that my two daughters were going to go to Korea, and it costs money. And in our particular religious community, our ecclesiastical leader, kind of wants the whole mission paid for before you actually go out. And so having two girls go out would be $14,000. When they told us, we just about passed out, okay? Great, you want to go, but how are we going to do this, okay? And so I really put it out into the universe. We need to figure out how to get this done for our girls. They want to go, they're ready to go, they would love to serve, and it's a great experience for them. And I have a friend here at UVU who's a friend of the university, had heard through somebody else that I had missionaries going to Korea. And so just randomly, after our class, he ran into me in the hallway downstairs and said, "So I hear you have two girls going to Korea." And I said, "I do." And he said, "Well, that's kind of exciting." It is. And he said, "You've done so much for me. Let me do something for you." No. I'm Polynesian. We don't accept help, okay? We do not. I have too much pride. No. Even though in my heart I was saying, yes. But I said no. And so weeks went by, and I went home, and I found a letter in the mail with a check for the full amount. And I was dumbfounded. And why is this happening? Who is this? I did a little bit of research, and I found out it was my friend I had run into in the hallway. And I said, "Why are you doing this? Why? We're not even related. Why would you do this for me?" And he said, "I'll tell you why. My son was in your class at one of the very first semesters I had started at UVU. And he was just graduating, and he had gone through 4 years at UVU, and nobody called him by his name. And you were the only one that knew him by name." I did a quick, okay, I can't remember who it is, I was trying to figure out, who is this, And he said, "You called him by name, you talked to him, you treated him, he was disabled, but you brought him in and just treated him like one of your kids." And to me, that was priceless. He finished the semester in his academic career happy because you knew his name. And I will always be grateful. And that has only been one of many experiences where if you're grateful, again, what you put out there comes back. And I was so touched by that gesture of kindness, and it has been such a blessing to me, but it all stemmed from somebody being grateful. I'm not saying that this is going to happen again and again. Do I need to do something? I'm not saying that that it's going to happen, but things like this happen all the time. For people who exude gratitude, it comes back. People who are grateful. In this day and age, I'm surrounded by students who just give me, give me, give me. It's all about me. I really don't. I want to take, and there's not enough of us who give. And I really find that the more that you give, no matter what the cost, the more that you give, the more comes back. It is just how the universe works, and it is just how it is. And I've proven that time and time again. The more you give, the more comes back, okay? And so show your gratitude, exude your gratitude always. There have been many instances where I've wanted to give up. I'm not going to lie. I'm painting a really nice rosy picture of how it was. It was very unpleasant. The whole chemo, the whole hospital stay, getting the bad news, not at all fun, not at all Disneyland. And a lot of people say, then why are you so happy? It's because it's fake, okay? It's because I've decided that I don't want to give up. I lived through my husband passing away from cancer, and in a sense, he gave up. He didn't want to do treatments, and that was his choice. But I had something to live for, and something to move to, and something to strive for, and so it was not good enough for me to give up. And so that's something that I want us to just kind of remember. There will be days when people will say no. There will be days when you will fail. And there will be many, many times where you will feel second rate, or not good enough, or not qualified enough, or not smart enough, or not woman enough. There will be times that you'll get to that. And you just need to give yourself a little bit of self-talk and a little bit of a pep talk and say, you got this, honey. Do not give up. Okay? I actually do that many times. When I go into interviews, I spend about 5 minutes in a bathroom stall. You got this. I know you got this. Okay? And then you walk in all calm and collected because you've already gotten all your anxiety and your pep talk done. I'm not going to give up on this. This is one thing I've added to my bucket list besides Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, is to go to Tahiti, to that resort in Bora Bora where you can wake up and jump into the water and sleep to the sound of stingrays and birds, you know. I really want to do that just because people say it's expensive and you can never afford it. And of course, because they told me I can't do it, it's on my list, okay? And so I just want to throw that out there as something that we should remember, not to give up, not to give up. It's easy for us to just say, okay, I'll just take the easy way out. Okay, it's too hard. It's very easy to say that, but the admirable thing, and the more marvelous thing to do, and the more courageous thing to do, is to say, okay, I deserve it, so I'm not going to give up. Okay? I think the last thing is one of my little strategies. I walk down the hallways at UVU, and I just love to make people feel uncomfortable by smiling. People walk around, oh, woe is me, life is hard. I can't do it. School is terrible. Have you ever walked down the hallways and observed? I mean, even here in this room, some of you are like, and how is that even relevant to me? Okay? I want you to know what a difference that makes. Because life is hard, and because you have so many obstacles, and because it's difficult, the one thing you can control is this. And it's really, the day that I went to visit my doctor, it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and he said, it's really bad. You really need to start making preparations for your funeral. And the way that he said it, I was like, say that again, okay? Because I don't feel like it. He said, really, your tests came back, your scans came back, doesn't look good at all. So I came to the office, which is really kind of my home, since I'm here from 6 until 9. And I just put on a big, fat smile. And people were like, you're so happy, you're so beautiful, it's so great. And what was happening was I was just about ready to fall apart. But because I chose to smile through it all, it made it a little bit easier for the people around me. The people around me were suffering just as bad. The people around me were just as scared. The people around me were just as uncertain. But I actually sucked it up and started smiling and said, we're going to figure this out 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time, one process at a time, one test at a time. And I just grinned through it all. And, I still have friends today. An article just came out a week ago in the Daily Herald. They did a story on a friend of mine and myself on surviving cancer. And people had no idea. I got emails and texts and, what do you mean you were suffering from cancer? I come to you all the time. I talk to you. I see you. And I said, that's because I chose to smile through it all. Because there are a lot of people that were, oh, the world sucks. Please feel sorry for me. I'm a martyr. My life is hard. Have you ever been with people like that? You don't want to hang out with them, okay? You don't want to leave your children to them either, okay? And so that's kind of been a good gauge as to some things to remember. So let me just quickly recap then. Some things to remember. Let me throw it out to you. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A as well. But just some things that you might want to remember, okay? So let me go back really quickly. Let me just go back really quickly as just a recap. Some things, and I'm going to have you tell me, all right, what you can remember. What do you remember about going big or going home? You tell me. Anything.
Dream big and go for it.
Go for it. Many people will say, no, not now, maybe not so, maybe not in this community, maybe not, not in Utah, maybe you can't because you're a woman. And then what do you say? I spit in your face. No, just kidding. You don't want to say that. You just want to say, keep telling me, because the more you tell me that I can't do it, the more I'm going to what? Prove you wrong, okay? All right. What about paying attention? What did we learn about being able to pay attention? To the details, the small things that matter. I do want to let me throw out one more story that I remember just as this triggered it. The reason we moved to Utah, we owned a very successful business. My husband and I were both working 2 jobs, and we were really quite happy in Hawaii. But it's expensive. Milk is $9 a gallon. You tell your children you are lactose intolerant because you cannot afford to drink milk. But this was the turning point. We were so caught up in our work. My son called my secretary and said, can I make an appointment to see my mom? He hadn't seen, I know, doesn't it just stab you in the heart? It's just awful. And it's still, I wrestle with that. And so I decided that weekend that we were going to move back to Utah. It was not worth working so hard and being so successful and getting all that money at the expense of my little boy. And you saw him. I mean, he's dimples. I mean, I deserve to have time with him. And since we've been here at Utah, where you can actually live on one income, it's been a blessing to be able to have time with him. But if I had not been paying attention to that message, your son called and wants to make an appointment to see you, I would be completely clueless and so caught up and unbalanced in terms of career over family, which is very important to me. Okay? All right, what about standing out? What are some takeaways that you have in regards to standing out?
So don't be afraid to stand out. Even if it's in just a small thing, simple thing, don't be afraid to do it. If you have it in your gut that says, go do that, do it.
Yeah, I always tell my girlfriends, work it. Come on. There's enough people that are just sort of just going through the motions. You have the choice. You have the opportunity to work it. So why not work it? And people are like, what does that mean? My guy friends will say, they understand it because they've already figured, most of them are gay. But they're like, oh yes, I know, I can work it. But some of my guy friends, what does that mean? When you say work it, that means be glam fabulous. That's what it means. Anybody can be fabulous, but to be glam fabulous is in and of itself a whole new thing. Okay, so yes, don't be afraid to stand out. Anyone else?
Practice at it. I like
Gotta practice. You have to practice. It's not automatic, and most of us are born. I told you I grew up, yes, master, that kind of environment, which is just the way it is. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that's how I grew up. So I've had to actually work to get to where I'm not afraid to stand out or to show who I am. Okay? Thank you very much. All right, what about work? What do we learn about work? Work is hard. Work is necessary. Everybody's got to work. There's work at home. There's work at church. There's work in school. There's work. A mother's work is never done. Okay, and it's all important. We can't say I'm a career woman and my work is more important than a stay-at-home mom. I've done both. I've done both at the same time. I've done everything, and I can just say that one is not more important than the other. There's different times, different phases, different things that come to the forefront. You had a comment?
I was just going to say appreciate all work.
Yeah, appreciate. Not everybody gets to go to the top of the chain automatically. You kind of have to work your way through some of my best experiences have been in the trenches, and I'm proud of that. It's blood, sweat, and tears, but I've been proud that I've been able to work my way up. I've had to earn it, and yet I'm proud of every single capacity that I've been in. Okay, thank you. All right, what about being grateful? This is my favorite thing to remember, or guideline, or life lesson. Gratitude is big. Gratitude is important. And people can say thank you in an email, but a personal note, a little bit different, an extra added level of TLC. It shows your commitment. I work in the Career Development Center, and I often tell students, okay, so when you're done with an interview, what do you do? And they'll say, oh, I'll email my thank you. Every horse, dog, and cat is going to email a thank you. How can you stand out? I'll give you an example. My coming to UVU was full-on gratitude. I had an opportunity to go to University of Utah and BYU, and decided I was too sacrilegious for BYU and not religious enough. I mean, too religious for University of Utah. So UVU was a nice balance, okay? And so when I signed up to come for an interview here, I was so grateful for an interview. I found out, did a little bit of digging and research, and found out that my boss liked Kneaders, brownies, and goodies. And so after my interview, I would not recommend doing this, but go big or go home, right? And so I took him a basket of Kneaders. I took the search committee a basket of brownies, and I said, yes, I am looking for brownie points. And that moved me to the second interview. The second interview, I thanked them again. I know that his wife likes Rocky Mountain chocolates. Again, a thank you. And then, because I really was, the fact that they were moving me, I'm coming from outside, they don't know me from Adam, I have 4 fingers, I'm loud, who are you, But then I went to the final round with the VP and really, just had an opportunity to pay for a dinner that he was at, and as a way to say, no matter how this turns out, I really am grateful for the experience. It turned out because they remembered somebody that came back to say, thank you. It's so small. Yes?
I have a friend who applied for an internship when she was done at BYU to work for David Letterman. And he gets thousands and thousands and thousands of applicants for that job. And she interviewed and didn't feel very confident about her interview, but she just kept getting this feeling that she should write a thank you note. And she wrote him a thank you note, and he said that when she was selected as one of the interns, he said that it was her thank you note that put her into a visibility range where she was selected as one of the top competitors for the position. And then another thought, when we express gratitude, they've done studies and it physiologically changes you and
Yes,
the
it
person
does.
receiving. And so it's an aura that you carry with you when you're grateful.
Sure does. It sure does. I know. Thank you so much for those 2 stories. In fact, no matter where I've gone, and people say, well, everybody gets an email, right? But make it personal, make it come from here, make it show you. And so that makes a little bit of a difference. But when you're writing a handwritten note, I know that a lot of my friends in my circles have stayed that way, and we became friends based on a little thank you note, a Post-it that said, I cannot believe how lucky I am to know you. And a lot of people say, well, what's your motive? Why, they're a little skeptical because gratitude is something that's a fine, ground that you have to walk on. And it says, you just do it. And people will start to realize that is who they are. They're not after something. They just want to say thank you. And the more that you do it, the more they realize, oh, well, that makes me feel good. I want to pay it forward. I want to do something nice. It really does change the dynamic of an office, of a family, of a relationship. I know that whenever I want something in my own marriage, I am very grateful. I'm just like, I'm so grateful for you, honey. You are the bomb.com. You are better than the rock. And I express my gratitude. And then I get what I want, But it always comes back, double, triple, quadruple even, no matter what. Home, work, church, really. A lot of people go through life and that one thing. In fact, let me share you a quick story. When I was at BYU Hawaii, I had a friend had worked 35, almost 40 years, I think, at BYU Hawaii. And I was in HR, and so I was responsible for employee training and development. And I sent her a note. She was going to retire, and I sent her a quick note, just a card that said, I've loved every time I've seen you in the hallways. You're always smiling. It's meant so much to me. You're just really this wonderful example of somebody that loves what they do. She worked in the custodial department, but for 40 years, almost 40 years. And she said in the 40 years that she had been there, not one person had ever written her a note. And can you imagine? I mean, she wants to adopt my grandchildren just because of that. But I don't have grandchildren yet, thank goodness, okay? I'm not that old. But the point is of that story is you just never know what kind of impact you can have just by merely saying thank you. And again, the more you give out, the more comes back, okay? We don't want to give up on our dreams and our goals. A lot of people will say nay, nay, nay. No, no, no. You just can't, you owe it to yourself to not give up. And then finally, the best accessory is always a woman's smile. It's free, okay? Sometimes you have to practice at it. I know a lot of people I've been coaching throughout my career. It's so difficult. It's like cutting, it's like pulling teeth to teach them how to smile, really. And yet it's the best thing that you can do to show how genuine you are and to show who you are and what you are about, okay? And it pays to be happy. I really believe that, okay? So, yes, Tara.
I have a question.
Question away.
How did you meet your second husband?
Okay.
And how was having more children and blending your children? How did that work?
Difficult, okay? We'll be married 18 years in May. And this was the second marriage, remember? So I went down to Tonga. He was working for my father. And I told my mom, okay, I'm done. I'm going to look for somebody. I need somebody. I'm lonely. Who is worthy of my love? and she said, there's only one guy I think that could totally handle you, okay? And she said, Chris. And I said, okay, show him to me. When I first saw him, he's totally not what we are opposite. But he had the most magnificent curly, long, thick eyelashes. And I was sitting behind him and I was saying, look at those magnificent eyelashes. Now, I wish there was a story, but really what happened was, my daughter, I had gone down to Tonga with my 3 little girls and they would not go to anybody. They stuck onto me like white on rice. And the one person they went to and just flocked to was Chris. So that made me notice who is that? Why are they going to him? I'm sure there's some big grand, big plan. But so they went to him and really quite comfortable with him. He was like, and who are these children? Where is their mother? And our first conversation, I said, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm married. I have 3 children. This is how I am. This is what I want. I think you're quite attractive. I think we could get along. I think we should date. And he was like, I don't think so. Okay. And because he said he didn't want to, what do you think I did? Oh, you are not going to say no to me. Okay. So I went after him. It was hard. It was really hard. And having to have a ready-made family already. And I think one of the advantages is that they were young. And so they grew up knowing him as their father, even though they've got a dad, you know. And so I know that I'm much more behaved this time around than I was in my first marriage. I've learned a lot of things that I could do better in the second time around. And it's taken us 18 years. Everybody says the first year is hard. It's been 18 years to adjust, but we have a pretty solid marriage because there were no games. We just sort of said, this is how it is. This is how I am. I think we can get along. Let's take day one, you know. And we had just a reality check at the very beginning. But he is pretty romantic. I have to say, though, he writes me a love letter every single day as a way to say thank you for marrying me. I know. That's gas for the girl, okay? Good gas to be able to go. And I think that's important because he knows that Vaughn, my first husband, was my soulmate, my true love, you know, the father of our 3 children. So coming into that was difficult for him and having to be able to adapt to that. But he has a big enough heart to welcome that. Not a single bone of jealousy. If the tables were turned, trust me, he would not be that hunky-dory. He's just a good person. So, thank you. Okay, yes?
Okay, I need to know the story about your finger.
Okay.
You keep talking about it.
Do you want the gangster version or do you want the real version? After Vaughn died, I moved down to Tonga to teach for the church education system. And the mode of transportation from the village to the church school is a big truck. It's like not as big as a semi-truck, but not as small as a 2-door truck. And everybody just gets on the back and you just ride to school with everybody, teachers and students. And I was wearing a ring on this finger. And on the bottom, when you jump off the truck, there was a little piece of metal. You can't even see it. It got caught between the ring and my finger. And I jumped off. I used to weigh 300 pounds, okay? So I jumped off the truck and it severed it completely. And I didn't feel a single thing. My finger was here hanging on a tendon and I was like, bye everyone, see you tomorrow. And there was blood all over it. Everybody was like, it was off and I really didn't feel a single thing. It was in shock. It severed all the nerves. But in Tonga, they don't have an ER. And so I looked down and I saw the blood. I saw the finger. I put it here as if to magically attach. And they rushed me to the hospital and said, let's go find the American doctors. We had some Doctors Without Borders, doctors from Utah, who had come down. 3 hours later, they said, they just threw it to the dogs and said, we'll just sew it up. But here's the plus side. I still play the piano, except sometimes I have to register and the finger has to overcompensate. But I still play the piano. I still type 90 words a minute. But the worst part is they don't give me a discount at nail salons. You'd think it was $3, at least $3 off, right? No, not at all. And often people don't know that I have a missing finger until I actually point it out. But it's been a good conversation starter. And my children used to take me to school, when they were in elementary. My mom is special because she has 4 fingers. It was fascinating, for them to. But it's all in the approach and the delivery, because a lot of times people would be so self-conscious about it and not want to bring it up. It's been a great fun, storytelling tactic. It's sense of humor, and.
Did you find your ring?
I did. I did find my ring, but in Tonga, we wear the rings on this finger. And so a lot of them said that was a sign you're not supposed to get married, because it was just before I was going to marry Chris. And you cannot marry. And I was like, oh, please, But and then what's so funny is they took me to the hospital, and there was no room in the hospital. So they stuck me in the kitchen and on a bed with my hand all bandaged up. And in the middle of the night, I woke up, and it was like out of a Stephen King movie, because there are no screens. There were about 30 cats in the kitchen. Cats! And I was like, what in heaven's name is going on? Because I've seen too many scary movies. It was hilarious. And I did in the kitchen. And I told my husband, you know what? It's okay. You don't have to marry me. I really did the, woe is me card. Because I know you want to marry someone with 10 fingers. He said, really? That is the lamest feel sorry story I have ever heard. And he said, I'm not marrying your finger. I'm marrying you. And so we got married not too long after that. Okay? Any other questions? Yes.
I think it's near the gym that Wayne the Rock Johnson works at. It's my hometown. Public
You and I must connect. He's so magnificent. But then my husband says, well, once you meet him, what are you going to do? You've already, done everything on your bucket list.
You just started it.
No, I'll just pass out if I see him, but I'll start a new one. That's what I want to do. Thank you again, ladies, for your time and your attention, okay? I will see you later, and I want to keep in touch. Let's connect either on LinkedIn or Facebook, okay?